In what military analysts are calling the single most devastating blow to Russian air power since the war began, Ukraine has just executed a precision strike on the command infrastructure that controls Russia's entire fighter jet network across the southern theater. 400 aircraft grounded, not destroyed, grounded. Because without the radar and communications backbone feeding them targeting data, those jets are nothing but expensive metal sitting on runways. And here's what makes this different from every other strike we've covered on this channel. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a desperate gamble. This was the conclusion of a carefully engineered plan that Ukraine has been running in silence for nearly 2 years. Putin's generals knew something like this was possible. They built backup systems specifically to prevent it. Ukraine destroyed those too in the same night. 4 minutes, 3 targets. And Russia's Southern Air Command went dark. Stay with me because by the end of this video you will understand not just what happened, but why it may have just changed the trajectory of this entire war. To understand why this strike is so significant, you first need to understand the architecture of Russia's air campaign, because it is fundamentally different from how Western air forces operate, and that difference is exactly what Ukraine exploited. NATO air forces, the United States, the UK, France, are built around a doctrine of distributed autonomy. Individual pilots are trained to make complex tactical decisions in real time. A US Air Force F-16 pilot can fly a mission, adapt to changing threats, engage targets, and return home with minimal real-time guidance from the ground. The system is designed to survive disruption. Knock out one command node and the network routes around it. Russia's Air Force doesn't work that way. It is built on a Soviet-era philosophy of centralized control. Pilots are highly trained in technical skills, but the system they operate within is rigid. Ground-based radar stations feed them targeting data. Regional command nodes deconflict their flight paths with friendly air defense batteries, a critical function, because Russia's own surface-to-air missile systems will shoot down an unidentified aircraft without hesitation. Communication relays keep the whole system synchronized in real time. What this means in practice is that Russian air operations are only as capable as the infrastructure on the ground supporting them. The aircraft themselves, the Su-34 fullbacks, the Su-35 flankers, the MiG-31 interceptors, are formidable machines. But they don't fly alone. They fly as part of a system. And systems have nodes, and nodes can be destroyed. Ukraine's intelligence services, working alongside Western partners who shall remain nameless in this video, spent the better part of 18 months mapping that system with extraordinary precision. Not attacking it, not disrupting it, just watching, cataloging which radar station talks to which aircraft, identifying the communication frequencies, pinpointing the physical locations of relay infrastructure buried inside Russian-controlled territory, building a complete picture of every single point of failure in Russia's Southern Air Command network. And then, when the picture was complete, they acted. To understand what Russia has actually lost here, you need to understand one specific weapon system that has been dominating the battlefield for the past 8 months. The KAB series air-launched glide bomb. The KAB and its variants, including the FAB-500 and FAB-1500 with UMPK glide kits, is not a particularly sophisticated weapon by Western standards. It is essentially a large conventional bomb fitted with folding wings and a GPS/INS guidance package that allows it to glide significant distances after release. No rocket motor, no sophisticated seeker head, just wings, guidance, and gravity. But what makes it devastating in this conflict is how Russia deploys it. Su-34 fullback strike aircraft fly to a release point well behind the front line, typically 40 to 70 kilometers from their intended target, at high altitude, outside the effective range of most Ukrainian ground-based air defense systems. They release the bomb. The bomb glides to its target. The aircraft never enters the threat envelope. And those bombs, some weighing 1,500 kilograms, are capable of destroying reinforced concrete bunkers, flattening tree lines used as Ukrainian defensive cover, and collapsing entire sections of fortified trench networks in a single strike. Ukraine has had no reliable answer to this weapon. Their remaining stocks of Western surface-to-air missiles are optimized for aircraft and ballistic missiles, not subsonic glide bombs flying nap-of-the-earth profiles. Shooting down every KAB released over Ukrainian territory is not feasible given current inventory levels. This has been one of the most painful strategic asymmetries of the past year. Russia could methodically grind down Ukrainian defensive positions at relatively low cost, and Ukraine could not stop it, until now. Because here is the critical operational reality, that Su-34 glide bomb tactic only works within a functioning air command network. The pilots need real-time data on Ukrainian air defense positions to plan their approach vectors safely. They need deconfliction from Russia's own air defense systems, which are active across the entire theater. they need targeting data updates from ground reconnaissance assets flowing through the command network. Without that network, flying a Su-34 at altitude near active Ukrainian air defense coverage isn't a mission. It's a coffin. Ukraine did not shoot down a single Su-34. They didn't need to. They destroyed the infrastructure that makes the Su-34 dangerous. And in doing so, they have, at least temporarily, taken Russia's most effective battlefield weapon off the table across the entire southern theater. The effects showed up on the front line within 48 hours. Ukrainian military sources, and these are being corroborated by open-source intelligence analysts tracking radio intercepts and drone footage, report a significant reduction in Russian glide bomb activity across the Zaporizhzhia and southern Donetsk sectors since the strike. Russian aircraft have not disappeared from the sky. They are still flying, but they are operating further north, in airspace covered by a different regional command network that was not affected by the strike. And they are not conducting the same volume of deep precision strikes against Ukrainian fortified positions. For Ukrainian ground forces, this matters enormously. The KAB campaign has been forcing Ukrainian units to constantly disperse. You cannot concentrate troops or equipment in any location for more than a short period when enemy aircraft can drop 1,500 kilogram bombs on you from 60 kilometers away with minimal warning. That dispersion has operational costs. It complicates logistics. It slows the movement of reserves. It prevents the kind of force concentration you need to execute offensive operations. If the Southern Air Command remains degraded for weeks, or even just 1 week, Ukrainian forces in that sector have a window they have not had in months. Whether they exploit it is a separate question, but the window is open. There is also a morale and operational tempo dimension here that doesn't get enough attention in conventional military analysis. Russian aircrews have been flying high sortie rates under pressure for over 2 years. Losing command infrastructure, even temporarily, introduces confusion, changed procedures, and elevated risk into their operational environment. Pilots who were flying routinized missions with reliable ground support are now operating under uncertainty. That psychological and procedural disruption has real effects on effectiveness even before you account for the physical loss of capability. Step back from the tactical details for a moment and consider what this strike represents strategically. For most of this war, the dominant narrative, particularly in Western media, has been one of attrition. Russia grinds forward slowly. Ukraine holds on. Territory changes hands in increments measured in kilometers, sometimes in meters. The story has been about endurance, not cleverness. What Ukraine demonstrated this week is something different. It is the application of a Western intelligence and targeting methodology to a mid-intensity conventional war. And the results suggest that methodology can produce strategic effects that straight-up attrition cannot. Ukraine did not need to match Russia's scale. They did not need 80,000 troops or 400 aircraft of their own. They needed patience, intelligence, precision, and the discipline to wait until the targeting picture was complete before striking. This matters for how we understand the rest of this war. If Ukraine can replicate this approach, identifying the key nodes in Russian operational systems and systematically destroying them, the trajectory of the conflict changes. Russia's material advantages in manpower and artillery ammunition become less decisive when the infrastructure that coordinates those advantages is vulnerable to precision strike. It also matters for the broader international military community watching this war as a laboratory for modern conflict. Every major power, the United States, China, the European NATO members, is studying what works and what doesn't in this war. The lesson from this week is that centralized command architectures are brittle. Redundancy helps, but is not sufficient if the adversary has the patience and intelligence capability to find the redundancies. This will change how militaries design their command networks for the next decade. So the obvious question is, what does Russia do next? Let's walk through their realistic options because this is where the analysis gets genuinely interesting. Option 1, rebuild. Russia can attempt to reconstruct the damaged command infrastructure. They have the technical capability to do this, but there are serious problems. First, it takes time, realistically months, to fully restore what was destroyed, not weeks. Second, and more importantly, Ukraine now has a validated targeting process for this type of infrastructure. The moment a new radar coordination hub comes online and starts emitting, Ukraine's electronic intelligence assets will identify it. The moment a new relay station is established, it becomes a target. Russia would be in a race to rebuild faster than Ukraine can restrike. Given Ukraine's demonstrated ability to hit these targets with precision, that is not a race Russia can be confident of winning. Option 2, relocate. Russia can shift air operations to the northern theater, the Kharkiv and Sumy axis, where a different regional command network remains intact. This reduces the geographic coverage of their air campaign significantly and creates new logistical demands. Moving the operational support infrastructure for hundreds of aircraft is not a quick process, and the northern theater has its own complications, including different Ukrainian defensive configurations and ongoing ground pressure. Option 3. Adapt tactics. Russia could attempt to restructure their air operations to function with degraded command connectivity, essentially training pilots to operate with greater autonomy, closer to the NATO model. This is a long-term organizational change that cannot be implemented in the middle of an active war. Russian pilot training pipelines are not designed to produce the kind of autonomous tactical decision-making this would require. Option 4. Escalate asymmetrically. Some analysts have raised the possibility that Russia responds not by fixing their air network, but by striking Ukrainian command and control infrastructure in kind, attempting to impose symmetric costs. This is not a new option for Russia. They have been targeting Ukrainian infrastructure throughout the war. But Ukraine has been hardening and dispersing its own command architecture precisely to prevent this kind of reciprocal targeting from being decisive. None of these options restore what Russia lost quickly, and the clock is ticking because the summer operational window in Ukraine is not unlimited. Russia still has enormous military resources. This is not the end of the war. The front line in the south has not collapsed, and Russian forces are not in a state of panic. This is one operational setback. A serious one, but one setback. What changes is the calculus. Russia's most effective low-cost weapon against Ukrainian ground positions has been degraded at the moment when Ukraine most needs operational breathing room. How Ukrainian commanders use that window, whether they have the reserves and logistics to exploit it, is the next question. And it's one we will be covering closely on this channel as the situation develops. If this kind of deep analysis is what you come here for, subscribe. Share this video with someone who wants to understand this war beyond the headlines, and drop a comment below. What do you think Ukraine's next move should be? The best military minds in the comments section always make for a better conversation than the ones in the studio. We'll see you in the next one.